For over a quarter of a century, the best paintball teams in the world have gathered in Orlando, Florida at the end of the year to answer a simple question through a hard test. Who is the best on the biggest stage at the last event of the season? Over the years, the World Cup has been the scene of gunfight magic, a place of battle where skills earned through hard work, applied in the biggest of moments, has forged talented names into legend. But this year, the COVID pandemic has deferred dreams, stopped stories, and the entire sport at its highest level was put on hold. With only one NXL event in the books, the middle of the season became the longest offseason that we have ever had. But the brakes are now off. World Cup 2020 is just on the horizon, and the 4-day battle to see who is the world's best paintball team is almost here. Who will emerge as the champion? Go watch all of the intense battles now from the 2020 NXL World Cup, only on GoSports.com. The driving mission at Go Sports is to bring you the best paintball content and broadcast in the world, behind the scenes, in the pits, and on the field. To continue this mission, we're rolling out a renovated website platform across the board with easier search functions and a more robust chat system for better interaction with your fellow fans. Dive farther into the game with a new integrated stats portal. Get your insight into the game anytime, anywhere, with an improved functionality across all mobile devices. Check it out now. Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall. I got John Woodley to discuss his big move to Tampa Bay Damage, making big moves here in 2021. We're going to talk about his career, his new team, his old team, but just also everyone, we will be having the Dallas event, the very first event, live on Go Sports at the new Giant Field out in Dallas, Texas. So looking forward to that one, the divisional event. So let's just jump right into it. LJ, dude, good to see you. First of all, your hair is looking outstanding yet again. I'm just a little jealous, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we got a decent amount to talk about today. Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I trimmed my beard up today, just feeling young, feeling gorgeous this morning or this afternoon. So we got a decent amount
with the baby and all, man.
Yeah, I was just holding the baby and feeding the baby before I got on the show. So, hey, man, it's he slept pretty good last night. Thank God, because he's in that 4-month sleep regression. So it's been kind of gnarly. How are you doing though? So you're in the middle of a big move, right?
Dude, I've been in the middle of a big move for the last few months. There's been a lot of crazy circumstances that have happened as far as like business and personal and all that. So I've just kind of been in limbo mode for a little bit, but now I'm finally starting to align, my life, if you will, and starting to figure out what the next moves are. So everything's great though. Really, and one of those really, really good.
So let's start to where you're heading to right now, because you're literally. I mean, we were kind of talking offline and talking about a bunch of different stuff. But you were sending me pictures of your a nice ratchet strap job on your move. Hey man, you got to know how to work a ratchet strap. It's kind of an important skill. And it looks like you got your ratchet straps dialed in as so you're going down to Florida, right?
Well, actually, I appreciate that, but it was not me that was doing that job. Actually, I would not trust me to put that in charge of other people's lives and things like that. That was actually me. I guess moving some of my stuff, but mostly just I had 50,000 left over, a surplus of PPE masks, K95s, and just normal cotton masks. So if anyone wants them, let me know.
Dude, those things are still at a
Yeah.
premium, dude. I just ordered some of those on Amazon.
Yeah.
Just, it's good. I'd like to have different levels of mask depending on what the hell I'm doing. If I'm getting on a plane, I need that. Give me that, the N95, KN95 stuff. But yeah, but no, I was just saying the Rapid Strats are pretty good. So are you moving to Florida? Is that what the plan right now, or like where are you moving to?
So it was actually, and it still is looking like the case. Tampa is looking like the right move. It would be good to be around the guys, be able to practice with them. I know that they are very, very hungry, which is, of course, awesome to go into. And it's cool to see how, them out there every single weekend. And it's kind of tough for me not to be there, and it would be nice to be local. Instead of just, the typical norm of 2 weekends before the event. It'd be good to get a lot of as many weekends in as possible. So even if I don't live there, I think that I'll just try and do my best to get out there as much as possible either way.
Where are you currently then? Right, the second physically.
I am physically right now in Dallas, actually. So I got some work stuff going on here. I was coaching a team out in at Paintball Fit this weekend at the I forget the XTPL and something like that. It was incredible though, man. And it is like, I posted about it, just shedding some light on it, but it was incredible just to see how big competitive paintball is. It's almost like you forget, because I'll go to the NXL events and I'll just beeline straight to the pit. It's maybe I'll say hi to a few people. But, and just to FYI to people, if I, have head down, I don't say hi, just don't take it personally. It's just, I'm there to do a job. So, but yeah, it's great to see so many teams out there. There's so many good competitive players that are just on the rise. It was incredible. It really was. It's like how paintball used to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny. I was showing you some pictures I found at my parents' house from when I was a kid playing for Navarone in like the mid 90s. And I remember hearing doom and gloom stories from some of the older guys at the time. I've just been hearing those stories constantly for going on plus 25 years plus now. And they never came to fruition. Paintball is, I feel like if a nuclear bomb hit the NXL and if the hurricane had hit and everyone there had died, paintball will still go on. People love to play paintball. Yes. And it will, and it's in all of its different manifestations. Which is super fascinating. But again, there's a lot that we could kind of go to. There's so many roads I want to kind of talk to you about, but let's just start there though. Let me talk about the bubble that it takes for you to be in, not just you personally, but because, like you said, hey, if you see me at an event, I got my head down, I'm on my way from point A to point B. And, because you are a super friendly guy. I've seen you talk to tons of fans. Every time I see you, you're bright eyed and like, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Oh, I'm doing really good. Like you have like you're willing to have like a full on conversation. You're not one of those guys who's like super locked into, okay, I'm here to do a job. But that being said, everyone on that pro field is there to do a job. What is that bubble like? Mentally for you, physically? Every team's a little bit different. You've been on quite a few teams now. That's another thing I want to kind of touch base on in this discussion is lessons learned along the way. Because you're heading into like a new era of, you're heading into your 30s, you're heading on to your, third top pro team now. You've been on more pro teams than that, but you've been on Houston Heat and then you've been on San Antonio X Factor. You were an MVP for them and you came back and had an amazing comeback for X Factor. And now you're heading to Damage, and Damage they look outstanding this year. And then picking you up, I think, is really going to help them too. We're going to talk about all that, but let's just start with, since you had brought it up, let's talk about that bubble. I don't really think that's something we kind of touch base on and what it kind of takes mentally when you go to an event to try to focus in on doing the best you possibly can. Whereas there's all these distractions. You could go be a social butterfly and talk to a million people and, be paintball famous at the trade show that's right there, but you got to stay locked in your pocket sometimes.
No, absolutely. And it's something that I'm just constantly trying to improve on, especially like you said, I'm the type of guy that I am friendly and I'm definitely extrovert. Yeah. To the fullest. And so I do want to say hello to everyone, especially other pro players that I'm close with, and that's just a side note. That's always such a weird dynamic, right? Especially now with, X Factor being the last team I played with. I'm on a new team now. And then with Heat, right? It's like Heat, I traveled the world with those guys, Chad, Sam, Ryan, Ronnie, all those guys, right? and they were like my best friends, my brothers. And then it's no more with them. And then it's just like the only time I really see them is at, national events. And it's like, it's kind of just like this weird, this weird circumstance where you can't really sit, you can go up to them and say hello, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, hey man, like we're enemies at the end of the day. And, but it's good to see you, you know what I mean? But that's just always, it's such a tough thing with paintball, right? And it's like, that's kind of what I've been, I guess, thinking about with X Factor is going to be the same thing as the next year. It's like, hey, good to see you guys. I catch up with them, but at the end of the day, it's like we're there to compete against you. Especially we're a top team, they're a top team, and it's like we're out for blood. So that's such a weird thing, right? It's tough. It is tough. So it's good to have those trips outside of paintball. But with that bubble, like you're saying, yeah, it's definitely something that I'd had trouble with on past teams. Heat, I would say it was really bad. It was really bad. They would get very frustrated with me, having team meetings and things like that after a match. And then they're like, where's LJ? Right. They're just like, we're like, they're saying was like, we were always saying, where's LJ? Like, and
that was me too,
X-Factor
bro.
was similar. I think I improved a little bit, but it's something that I'm constantly improving on. But it's just with that, just segueing what you're saying with the bubble too, is just like normal life, work life, right? Like I got my own business. I got a lot of things going on, working with China. So that's around the clock, and shipments are coming in, and just, it doesn't matter if it's a holiday or if it's a weekend or a paintball tournament, like those things need to get done and need to get managed. So it's so tough to just shut that off and just completely focus on my team and me and the best, playing to the best of my ability, but just being fully present. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, because I think you're a great guy to ask this question, because some money can be, just as a pure look, money can be made in paintball. Obviously, there's companies that make money, there's fields that make money, paint manufacturers that make money. I mean, paintball is an expensive hobby, and and if you really dive into it, play from a sport perspective, it's just like anything. If you really get into it, but it's very gear dependent. It can cost a bunch of money. When you get really good at it, there is a little bit of money to make. Now, there's very few guys that can actually make a living just playing the game. Some guys have hybrid jobs. Maybe you'll work for a company, you make a little bit of money on the side. And there's so many different variations of this. But when did you kind of, because you do your own thing in, completely disconnected from paintball, but you kind of were a kid coming up in that era where the swan song of, oh, I could be a pro paintball player and just do that. And again, that is a reality for a very select handful of people over time. Still to this day is a reality for a few very select talented individuals who are real, right place, right time, right talent. You got to be really good. You got to be really lucky, and you got to work your ass off once you get an opportunity. That's why those people have that opportunity. So you're on the maelstrom of all
and
that.
Real
playing
quick,
for
just
Houston
to add on to
X
that.
Factor. Yeah.
Just to add on to what you just said, is all those things to get to the top, right? And I know there's lots of people watching that are trying to be the best, and I'm sure they want to know a little bit about that. I put a post up, but I think one thing to add on to that is the ability to listen. Is to listen, is to be a sponge, is to be a student, and that's constantly. It doesn't stop when you get to the top. When you win everything, it does not stop. You're constantly a student. It's just, that's how it is, and that's such a fine line between that and real life, man. In relationships, what can I do better for you as a teammate? What can I do better for you? And genuinely listen and care what they have to say, because they're saying it for a reason. And same thing with business, man. And that's everything really changed for me with business when I just changed that perspective to this is paintball, because I've done paintball for so long, 10 years, whatever, playing professionally. And it's like, how did I get good at paintball? Just like by just being an absolute obsessive sponge. And like, I would go up to Jason Trozen every 15 minutes. Hey, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Tell me what I'm doing wrong. So just to add on to what you were saying a little bit.
No, yeah, absolutely. That's why we got you here, brother. So anytime you want to add on, that's the whole point. But yeah, but I think it's interesting because there are a couple questions there. One was, when did you realize, like, okay, cool, maybe I can make a little bit of money playing paintball, but this isn't gonna, this isn't gonna make me the money I need to be making to have a family, make my life, what I need it to be. Like, when did that decision happen for you, and that you really kind of started doing stuff outside of paintball? Because again, you kind of came to be a man you've been doing this for a long time, dude, and you did it in your late teens, early 20s, all through your 20s now. You're heading into your 30s. So, you became a grown-ass man while you were making your way in the paintball world. And there is a lot of parallels there because, being in an environment where you have to, like, it definitely matters. Like, it doesn't matter just how good of a dude you are. It definitely matters, or a girl. It matters what you bring to the table. What can you do for us? What are you good at? And that's what real life is. Like, what do you add to society? That's what you get paid for. What do you add to the company? What is your, you're not just getting paid for your time necessarily, even though sometimes that's the case depending on your job. You're also getting paid for your talent and what you bring to the table. So, I just wanted to kind of throw that over on your side of the arena and get your thoughts on that, because there are a lot of things and parallels, like you said, to take out of the competitive game of paintball. But then also, I'm just wondering, when did you decide as a top level pro guy on top level teams, like, man, I also need to get, my regular business stuff dialed in, because, maybe I'm not going to be the, I'm Oliver Lang making 6 figures at the time that he was. And then that's going to be what I do for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's interesting, because there's a lot of guys that may be super talented coming up the ranks. And I'm always telling those guys, learn a trade, go to school, get your regular stuff dialed in while trying to do this. And I don't really have a lot of excuse for people like, oh, I can only do one or the other. It's like, dude, I wanted to go into college. I worked 3 jobs, got a degree from San Diego State, and still found my way to get on the Ironman. And then drove constantly wherever I needed to get to. Like, you whatever you want, you're going to get that thing. So, but again, that's paintball too. It's like, that's why I just had Christian Collins on the show, who's going to be on the Ultimate Shootout. And he just got on the Outlaws, and this dude's driving like 10 hours to make an outlaw practice, played in the woods, 10-man, like, everyone really likes his attitude, likes his enthusiasm, knows this dude's willing to grind, and he'll get in his car and drive his ass 10 hours in order to make a tryout. It's like, business, awesome. Paintball, there's a lot of parallels there.
Yeah. So, great question. And I think with just to touch on that, I think a big piece of that can be, like you said, is not just paintball. There's so many ways to make money. It's crazy. You don't have to have necessarily a 9-to-5 job to make money. Like, it's not how things work. Like, there's opportunities everywhere. You just, like, a very good friend and mentor of mine just says it, like, this is when I was kind of in the last 6 months, I've been working on, a pretty big business deal, and it was so big that I had to solely focus on that. And, he gave me some incredible advice. He's like, dude, keep your eyes open, just because you're doing this, but keep everything around you, keep your eyes open. There's opportunities everywhere. And that's kind of exactly how it is, man. Like, there's so many ways to make money. You gotta get creative with it, and how you get creative with it that just starts a snowball effect, right? It's like who you surround yourself with. What kind of content are you consuming? What are you reading? Because that's basically just like firing up that creative engine in your brain to come up with different ways to make money, and once you start to do that, you start to realize that you're not dependent on that 9-to-5 job, right? Where you're just to like for example, like, what's the motto? It's like you stand in line every day with your basket, and then and you wait in line, and then you get in front of the line, and people, they have eggs for you, and then you walk away. And every day that's what happens. And then one day you walk up and they're like, nope, no more eggs for you. That's kind of how it works, right? And then you're just like, well, what do I do? So that's why I just think it's important to have multiple different legs to stand on with that. And that's kind of how paintball was for me. I was doing different things, like, for example, during COVID, COVID hit, and I'm just sitting on my balcony, and I'm like, well, okay, how can I make money? I'm always thinking about that, right? I've always been like that since a kid. And I see it was in downtown Chicago on my balcony, and I just see everyone at their places sitting outside. And I'm like, okay, well, everything's closed. Everything's closed, and you can't go out. You can't do anything. People are just staring at their, walls, basically. They have to work from home. And, I think it really hit me when I was at Home Depot and I saw the paint line all the way around the corner, and I'm like, everyone's going to be redoing their places all summer. It's summer in Chicago. They're going to be redoing. So I had a great outlet that I would go to purchase outdoor furniture. And this specific company had back orders of 100,000 orders, but this outlet had defective units and things like that. So they were getting rid of it, and it was in the suburbs. So I went out and purchased all this outdoor furniture, thought I'd give it a shot. And I purchased this couch for $200, or $300, and it's normally a $3,000 outdoor sofa, beautiful, and sold it. So it was 2,500 retail. I sold it for $3,000. Boom, like that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So just that's an example. I think
some Gary Vee stuff right there. I like it.
Yeah. He's a hype man for sure. But it's good to just either way, just be like constantly, again, in that mindset or in those conversations with people to where you're thinking differently and creatively. But I think just that's I kind of went off on a tangent with that. But I think
no, that's what the show is for tangents.
What made the decision? Great. Okay. So yeah, so what but just kind of going, back to what you're saying is the decision, I guess, was, I was playing on Heat, did that for a long time. Played in Europe, played in Canada, played in the US, and that was extremely, rewarding in so many different ways. I can't thank that organization enough, and Sarge and all the guys that are part of that team that are still my brothers. But yeah, it's just, I did that. And then I also played on Aftershock for a little bit. And then at the same time, when I was on Aftershock, I was still playing in Europe. So I was, every year I still had a presence in Europe playing. And then an X Factor, same thing. But I think more or less like, so I got cut from Heat after the third year, because I was a little shithead. Understandably why I did get cut, I just was, definitely, I think grown from the person I was back then. Still have a lot of growing to do. But
hold on real quick. Just hold on real quick, because I think that there's a lot of younger kids that are on that are on their teams, and I'm always trying to. Anytime we have a guy, anybody that gets on the show, it's like there's certain moments from their careers that you can kind of pick up lessons from if you're a guy coming up the ranks. So what would you say to the young kid that's you at 20? So that you didn't get cut from Heat, or maybe that was a blessing in disguise for you at the time. Maybe that was something that was able to make you a better person, because, like you and I have had many conversations about this. I love if anyone's never heard of the philosopher Alan Watts, please go and do yourself a favor and look at his work. But one of the things that he talks about, and a lot of the philosophers talk about this, is a big Stoic philosopher thing, even though Alan Watts is not really a Stoic philosopher. But is that it's kind of important that you have struggles in your life, because those struggles will, in a lot of ways, cause you to become a much better person. And so, look at what happened to you after you got cut from Heat. Sure, different things here or there, but now you went on to eventually ended up on X Factor and really helped them. You're a stud for them, and then now you're going to go to Damage. Who knows what's going to happen next year? But the stage is definitely set for some awesomeness from Tampa Bay Damage. But anyway, so if you could go back, that's my question, is that if we're talking to the LJ Woodley at 19.
It was absolutely a blessing in disguise, man. It seriously was. And Sarge is such a brilliant dude. And I feel like sometimes, especially, I was so upset with the situation, because I was so close with all those guys. I was a starter on the team. So it was very confusing to me. But I think I feel like Sarge maybe just did it on purpose to help me as a person. I don't know. He's such a brilliant dude, so I don't know. You never know with that guy. But either way, yeah, absolutely. It was so good for me, man. So I was very angry about it. I didn't see maybe there's something that I did wrong here. I was, of course, just angry at the team and whatever. And so so I was, speaking with Damage. Ronnie and I were speaking with Damage. We were kind of a duo package, Ronnie and I, and we've always kind of been like that since Division II. It's my brother. So so we go and we're going to Damage. We're signed with Damage, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks before the freaking season starts, man, they fold. And so I was getting paid on Heat, of course, salary to decent salary to be able to live, especially at 25 years old at the time. But yeah, so then Damage falls apart, and I have no team to scatter and go to, especially the ones that don't have money, that have money. So then I'm like, what am I going to do? So I ended up playing with Shock, just to play with Shock, and they weren't really paying me much at all. But I went from Houston Heat, having an itinerary every time we landed, and super organized, super structured, very well, financially stable, and to, Aftershock. And not to knock on Aftershock at all, but it was just, this is a bunch of blue collar ballers, right? It's like, but it was big because I was in that uncomfortable moment where I was like, what am I going to do? Right. What am I going to do here? Like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Because I don't have a college degree. I just have paintball. That's it. I'm 25 years old. So it really was a big wake up call for me in general. Like, I can't just rely on this. Like I was mentioning earlier, I can't rely just solely on this. I need to figure out my life. And at the same time too, it was kind of like, okay, I've been there, I've done that kind of thing. Like all the events in the Europe were the same. So it's like, okay, I need to start. I know this isn't forever, so I need to start, figuring out my life for the rest of my life, right? Just setting myself up, my foundation and all that. So I think that's when I started, looking at different ways of how I could do that. And that's when everything started with my career.
So looking
back,
back,
huge blessing in disguise. Absolutely.
I was going to say, so looking back, it's like we were talking the other day, and I've said many times to anyone that will listen, but it's like, I'm so thankful for people like Chris Lasoya and San Diego Dynasty. I never played on Dynasty, but if it wasn't for San Diego Dynasty, I never would have known how good at paintball I was, or the team that I was on was. If it wasn't for Chris Lasoya at the time being the best paintball player, you never know when you go up against somebody, you never really know. So you got to thank your enemies, especially when you're not really playing for blood. We're metaphorically trying to kill each other, but at the end of the day, like, it hurts a little bit, and you're going to get tenderized, but that's about it, just enough to make you remember it and to make it fun, which is one of the reasons that the game's so awesome. But it definitely looked like it was a blessing in disguise. And then,
huge,
so then you transition and I love shock, but also that must have taught you a little bit about something self-reliance as well too. You're going for, it's like when people are taking care of you, it's easy to just have that develop as a crutch. Like, oh, I'm getting taken care of. I don't have to worry about this, and I don't have to worry about that. And all of a sudden, and I love Chicago Aftershock. That's another team we played against back in the day. Even those pictures I sent you when we were the very first time I ever made it to the finals when I was a teenager playing in the woods, and who smashed us in the finals at my home field, Chicago Aftershock. So but again, thank your enemies. But then you go to shock, and then you end up, but why did you, what made you keep going? Like, what is it about the game that kept you there through that doldrum? You went from the top, essentially playing for one of the best teams on planet Earth, and then you're going for shock, and shock was constantly, Mikey was doing all he could. Rennick, they're trying to put different bodies out there, different looks, did pretty good sometimes, not good others. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. But what kind of kept you around? What kept you in the game? Spite.
That was a big part of it.
A great motivator.
I'm gonna, yeah. And that's, I'm very adamant about, utilizing these kind of circumstances as fuel, right? Because there's two things you can do about it. And it's almost like, okay, you got cut from heat. What are you going to do about it? Like I love that saying. It's just like, what are you going to do about it? Okay, you have this and this and this going on. What are you going to do about it? That your girlfriend broke up with you? What are you going to do about it? Right? So I just using that as fuel instead of anything else, right? To be even better than I am, and just make them regret it and make them pay for it. And so, I just went into that year, Ronnie and I, with just a lot of fire in us, and we played very individually. If you go back and watch tape, that's when I think I really just really started attacking the center with just so much aggression because it was the A's back then, and I would just, taller dude, so I would just stand over the cake, and because there would be the A and then a cake right behind it, so kind of like the Xbox, but it was the tall cake. So I would just stand over the top of it, and I would just shoot both ways, literally. So if I see someone move, shoot that way. If they come to get me, I can shoot them and protect myself. And that's kind of why I would play, individually in that sense of like, I'm protecting myself, I'm doing me. And then if I get a kill or two off one side, I'm looking to go underneath the A into their Xbox, and then looking to kind of get crafty and selfish, right? It's like I would get up 2 kills. I would get 2 kills, and it's like a big saying I like to say is like I preach, you know, when you get kills, you slow down, you don't speed up. Right. So
absolutely.
I would get those 2 kills.
Absolutely. It's called playing smart.
I would get those 2 kills, and I would just keep going and go to their side and just want to do a run through and just kind of just enforce my will. But yeah, I just touching on that right there is like when you get the kills, you slow down, you don't speed up, right? Because if you think about, like I always think, Fedorov is like the best advice I've ever gotten from anybody in paintball. And he said, I don't know how he articulated it, but he basically said, always think about if you're in their shoes. So think about, for example, if you lose 2 bodies, what would you love is if people are moving, right? Because then you have a chance to even it up. What would you hate is if they just don't move, and then it's 5-on-3, and you're just like, you're rolling your gun, and they're not giving you anything, and then they're just putting it together, and slowly they'll take a minute, 2 minutes, then make a bump, you know. And it's just like, oh, I'm just waiting to die here, right?
So true. But that's honestly, that's a really big lesson that a lot of newer players have a hard time getting. We see it every single time, every year, constantly. I feel like a broken record when I'm out at a practice and if I'm helping coach a team or whatever, we're doing commentary. Dude, everybody, you know, like that's what I'm saying. It's like, it doesn't even matter what level we're at, but it's so hard. And but that patience, I mean, but saying it, that's actually a really great way to say it. Is that, you know, that when you get the kills to just slow down, because it's so frustrating if you're in a low body situation. Like, I really want that guy to get over aggressive and be reckless, seeing the blood in the water and try to finish early. You know, like, please do that, because that's the time that you get to catch him in the transition bunker to bunker. But if you're down bodies, if it's 2 on whatever, 4, 5, 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're down bodies and you're looking at the most crucial, the thorn in your side, the guy in the best bunker, wherever that may be, you know, he's way past the underside, a D side up in the center, particularly on the snake side. It's so frustrating if that guy is incredibly patient.
He doesn't
even
look at you.
Yeah, because
he doesn't even look at you.
Yeah, he doesn't even look at you. How are you going to get that kill? If he won't gunfight me, if I'm in a low body situation and he won't gunfight me, what the hell am I going to do? Now I gotta figure out a way to run down the field and bunker all these guys out. Like, does that happen occasionally? Sure, it does happen. That's why we always say, if you play offense in a defensive position, sometimes you will surprise people. But dude, that is a huge lesson for front players. And also, and when you're in the center, even more so, because, you know, the center, you don't have outside contained so you're a center guy, and that is, and so maybe we could just kind of downshift from story mode to kind of just talk a little tactics real quick, because the reason why you're getting paid and the reason why you're so good is because, you know, you produce constant aggression and kills and are an elite attacker up the center. There's not a lot of guys that do it at your level. A-Rod does it at your level. There's certain guys on certain teams that can transition to do it. But one of the reasons that, you know, once you came back to X Factor or went to X Factor and came out of retirement, and I mean, X Factor has weapons everywhere in every position, but to have that center, it was pretty crucial. And it's just that huge threat. You are a weapon that has to be answered. No matter what's going on, you're going to be pushing the issue. You do it more often than not, and you're really constantly hitting that gas pedal, and that is the huge benefit for you. Layout contingent slightly. Some layouts you're God's gift out there, and other times you know it's not as much, but still that's why you're an elite threat. You know what I'm saying? So that, if we could just kind of shift into tactics mode real quick, what is going on in your head? Because that concept of getting your kills and biding your time, it's so much harder in the center because you don't have outside contained. So you have to worry about all the threats on the snake side, on the D side, whatever's left. They could, you know, they're talking about changing the game. If your snake guy dies and somebody makes a big move down that side, that could completely change things. So let's just talk tactics real quick in the center of the field, because that is such a hard position to play, and not a lot of guys do it well, period. And there are very few human beings on planet Earth that do it as well as you. So let's talk about that real quick.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think a big piece of that, and I think a big piece of the success I did have up to center with, we'll say X Factor, for example, is the information that I'm getting. So that's the number one thing, right? If I have the solid information and I know exactly how many bodies there is, so 53, 5-on-3, they have 3 bodies, and I know we use 1 through 5 through the back, the 2, 3, and 4, and the 2's inside and the 4's inside. I know exactly what to do, right? So I mean, yeah, I think that I'm a skilled center player, yes, but I think that a big part of my success in Chicago or whatever the events I played well is because I'm getting really solid information from my teammates, and that's step one. Literally, that's step one of any position, really, in general. Like I don't have eyes, but when you give me the information, I have eyes and I can see. I know what to do. Right. The same with the snake player. Like they can't see anything, but if that guy is literally just right behind them, hey, I got you, just giving them that comfort as well. Because if you have that guy literally communicating to you, hey, I got you, Billy Bernaccia, for example. I love playing with him. Big shout out, Billy. Love you, big guy. But
yeah, Billy's great.
Billy and I, when we play together, right, it was just like I'd get in the corner behind him and say we shot the wide guy. And, our call for that was Spider. And I would just be like, Spider, Billy, Spider. And I'm just rolling my gun on the 4, which is the inside bunker or the God, whatever it may be. And then, he'd get the 50 snake and I'd be like, rap on the 4, Billy, and it just that constant stream over his head and me just communicating with him. And I like to break down the game to where it's 2-on-2 on each. Where's my hands? There they are. Okay.
Other side.
So
there it is right there.
It's basically it's not 5-on-5. It's 2-on-2. It's 2-on-2. So
you saved it. You're good to go.
It's if you and I are playing the snake side, it's you and I versus the 2 guys ahead of us. We're not worried about if we're playing the Dorito side, we're not worried about the snake side really too much, right? We're just worried about winning our wire, and the 3 guy, the back center, that guy is the one connecting and getting that information out and things like that. He's the one that's maybe shouting, the relaying the bunker calls, but that shouting should only be coming from really one person. And unless it's like if your Dorito guy sees an important move. So on X Factor, we call it the center brick, the cowboy. So if that happens, cowboy, you know what I mean? That way, instead of 5 people yelling or 4 people yelling, and then, Jesse Stevens sees the cowboy, he's trying to yell cowboy, but he can't get it over 4 other people screaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to break down the game where it's just 2-on-2, and it simplifies things, and things get simplified, the game slows down. And then when the game slows down, you make the right decisions, you trust each other, and you make the right decisions. You don't take unnecessary risks, you don't overextend, and you just control. Right? I don't know how it works.
So where does the aggression, and also I don't know exactly what happened to your headphones your headphone when you dropped it, but it does sound like they might have turned off, because it does sound like you're in a little bit of a bathroom right now.
How are we doing now?
Oh, so much better. So
let's go.
So let's talk about just real quick here. Where does the aggression kind of come into the mix? Because one of the best things that I feel when you're on is that you take all that information, you understand, your view of the game. And I agree with you in a lot of ways. You definitely can break it down to where it is, more of like a 2-on-2 battle. When a body falls on a certain side, that guy's now on an island. And then depending on what the center player is doing, and this is a concept as old as the game itself, push side, hold side type situation.
And I was more or less breaking it down for, since I was just coaching, Tribe this weekend in Dallas, divisional team. And I was speaking with a lot of divisional players and things like that. So I think that's kind of who I'm breaking it down for, just to simplify things for them. Right. Because the game's chaotic.
And again,
for sure.
That's the whole reason. And hey, this is what I'm saying. Like, look, paintball seems like a really simple thing. Hey, there's dudes on the other side, and they're trying to shoot you. You're trying to shoot them. but it is infinitely complicated. It's a very complex thing, and there's a lot. That's why I always tell people, if you're listening out here, pay people like Woodley, pay people like Greenspan, the PKI guys, whatever. Like whatever your local pro is, like whatever you want to be good at, there's a reason why you pay people that know what they're doing, because it will make your experience so much better, and it will make the money that you spend on it go so much farther, because it's a lot more fun to win than it is to get completely destroyed. I learned that when I started playing golf.
As well as your understanding. It doesn't matter how much you it doesn't matter how much you practice. It does not matter how much you practice, because you got to be you're practicing the wrong way. You got to understand the right way to practice, and then you can start to figure things out. So you just need a few of those sessions to really understand the right way.
1,000,000%. But let's talk real quick, because I when I find guys that are really good at certain things, whether it be one-on-ones or low body, high body, aggression, but you're really good at deciding when. And I know this is something that's actually, it's very hard to put these elements into words. This is why talent is a thing. So it's hard to actually contextualize and turn it into a commodity, a pliable charisma that you can give to somebody else by taking what you're really amazing at, which is because of all the experience you've had. But where you really started to thrive in the modern incarnation of the game, in your, where you've shoehorned yourself into it, is that gas pedal in crucial moments at the exact right time in big games against top teams to break enough open that allows the other awesome players around you to close things out. That's why you deserve to get paid money to play this game. That's why Tampa Bay Damage wants to pick you up. That's why you're so potent on San Antonio X Factor and helped them so much and won that MVP award right out the gate. So that's a really cool, it's a cool thing that you spent all that time, and I don't want to pigeonhole you into being just this one-dimensional guy, but there's a reason why A-Rod is such a huge threat. There's a reason why he was the MVP, doing what he was doing for the Ironman, and why he's such a commodity. Same with you, and it's because it's so hard to find a guy that can be that bowling ball, man, that can just burst things open at the right time. But you've been able to do it 5-on-5. We should probably do a tactics show actually, where we kind of go through, different instances, maybe not even necessarily, one game, but we could do a different. Yeah, we should definitely do that. We'll set that up. But it's really interesting, because that is such a hard thing to teach. We always say it's really hard to teach aggression. Either somebody has the aggressive mindset or they don't. You can, kind of take people and dial them back a little bit, but it's so hard to get a tentative player to be more aggressive. But you definitely have that, and you have it in spades. And that's one of the reasons that it makes you an elite threat. And so can we talk about that? Because I just think that, I feel like you are good at putting things into words in the conversations we had, talking about different things that aren't this concept. So let's just try to have this conversation about aggression in the center, because that's something that every team, if they have it, they're going to be better. So seeing as how you're one of the marquee guys there,
so much better.
Let's start talking about that. When do you feel? Again, when do you feel like you need to push it?
Going back to what you're saying again, is just like like what Fedorov told me. It's like, think about if you're in their shoes. Like, think about all the players out there. Like, think about how irritating it is when there's a center guy. It is so irritating when you don't know what he's doing. He's in a big, especially a lot of times it's a big bunker, so you have to come all the way around to get him out of there. It's not like you can just get into snake 1 or snake 2. You got to come fully around that spot in order to shoot him. And just a side note too, with that, I mentioned it in my little post or whatever on Instagram, which I'll be posting a lot more stuff moving forward. Just little tips and things like that. But you have a massive brick, right? And it's like, utilize how many spots you can pop out of it. Don't just come out of the right side or the left side. It's like, utilize that entire massive whale that you have, and just all you need is a little head check, and you can see exactly what's going on, right? But when to attack.
As long as you're 6 foot tall.
Yeah, that kind of helps, right?
It does help.
But Malloy is absolutely just. I hate that Malloy always gets kind of left out of the equation, but Malloy is absolutely disgusting in the center.
Yeah, but Malloy, I don't. First of all, I don't feel. I don't know whose discussion that you guys are talking about, but every time that we talk about Malloy or talk about the greatest, Malloy is in there because the dude is insanely nasty. We named a move after him, and the move is when you have no business in hell based on the situation to transition from one spot to another, but somehow you make it and shoot everybody. It's just the Malloy. Oh, you Malloyed yourself to the other side of the field, shot everybody. Like, yeah, he's definitely one of God's gifts to the game. But the dude is definitely short, and he cannot play he can't play all the spots, which makes the fact of how good he is even more miraculous. But dudes that are your height and, the Tyler Harmons of the world, the LJ Woodleys of the world, you guys do have a little bit more options of to what spots you can play from those positions. But then also it's harder for you guys to get small because you're over 6 foot tall. Though you both fold up like folding chairs pretty good and can get pretty tiny.
I'm extremely flexible. Yes, that definitely helps.
I believe you. I've seen it.
Stretch. Everybody should be stretching all the time. Yoga is huge. But when to attack, going back to what you're saying, that's
yes,
it's definitely difficult, especially so when a layout comes out. I think what really helped me develop, my skill or my presence, my strong presence up the center is I was not good at it. I was like a fool. Like I was terrible. It's so overwhelming. Everything's moving so fast. You can't think. You don't know which way to shoot. It's terrible. And I'm sure a lot of players can relate. But I would just go up there over and over and over and over and over again. And that really helps. It just really helps you just develop a whole nother comfort level to where it's like, okay, I've been in this situation before. Your brain's an incredible thing. You know what I mean? It absorbs so much information. It's like, it just, even just, subconsciously, you're learning so much without even really understanding it, so like when a certain layout comes out, I like to do that. I like to, just try so many different ways of going up there, to where no matter what situation, there's still going to be a way to go up there, because I do think that position is extremely important. I basically feel it's in my opinion, there's 3 punches, right? There's the snake, the Doritos, and the center, and you got to switch up those 3 punches, right? You got to not know what to predict and just got to utilize that. So when to attack. So there's different circumstances. You could go there straight off the break, which is what Ryan was doing at Cup, and that was a huge thorn in our side. And that was honestly, to be perfectly honest, it was throwing us off, but it was mostly throwing me off because I was so focused on getting that shot to where I was just standing up. And the World Cup layout, there was the 2 bricks, and you obviously have to shoot over them, so you have to stand tall. And I just could not shoot Ryan. I just could not shoot him, and it was like more or less just frustrating me with me. I was just like, I just want to get this guy off the field, But so that's one way of just going straight up there. And there's so many different routes you can always run it, like utilizing those towers, blocking yourself out, running towards that tower, and then just just cutting across or whatever it may be to go there off the break. But it's always nice too to be the second guy there, right? Because when you're the second guy there, that he's there. He doesn't know that you're maybe nearby, right? Because you could be in those more or less center towers or wedges, right? And just kind of putting the pieces together to come get, finagle your way to come shoot him and stay alive, or at least just go get him where you're causing the chaos. And when you do that, your team moves out wide, right? Because those guns will switch to me. And then once that happens, boom, we do that. And then
so I think also sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, I was just it's kind of like, and I use the metaphor of boxing a lot of times. It's like, when you watch a boxing match, pure boxing, and you see the way they utilize, and when you go and if you go and work with somebody, it's going to teach you how to, hit the numbers and what, how to throw the certain punches and when. Paintball as it flows, as it ebbs and flows, when you watch a whole game, the way it's coached, the way it's played, in a lot of ways, it is kind of like guys throwing, boxing combinations. So, and I feel like as that center player, you're kind of like the uppercut. It's an incredibly potent punch if you can get through the defenses, because and it can land. And that's so knowing when to throw that punch, but so knowing when as the center player to have that big run through based on the flow of information that you were just talking about. I feel like we're gonna have to save this for a tactics episode, because I can't let you go without having a conversation about the transition from X Factor to Damage, and then talking about how much Damage could be a huge threat for all the top teams this year. But I do think that's what we should spend some time in the tactics episode talking about it, because that center punch, that uppercut, man, is so potent. And when you have a player that does it efficiently more often than they don't, like look at Ryan Greenspan just won the MVP, played arguably one of the best events he's ever had in his entire career at damn near 40 years old, to help Dynasty win their 20th anniversary event, their 20th World Cup they played in, and they won it. And he looked like a god out there, and he deserved that MVP award. And he did it from playing that center position and being very attentive to when to attack and when not to attack, when to defend, when to hold a lane, when to launch, when to switch. All of those concepts are, and this is again why you should go to clinics or have a paintball coach, because those are very specific instances that are all different. And there's so many different variables in which you have to make that split-second decision on the spot, and whether or not you succeed in that moment, in that decision, will a lot of times, as the center attacker, dictate whether or not you put your team in a really good spot. I mean, you can win single-handedly, or you're in a terrible spot. Now you're not just no kills and down a body, could be even worse, sacrificing position as well too. So, it's just such a huge spot. But that's why, again, when we sit and have conversations about, who wants to pick up who and who could get what guy. I mean, a lot of times these center attackers come at such a premium. So let's talk about that. So now you come back to X Factor at a retirement, doing your business life. You kind of walked away from it. So, and we got about 10 more minutes, but left in the show. So we have to kind of get all this in. But and we had you on the show to talk about this before, but you came back to the game. What brought you back? Like when they were like, hey, can you make it? And you're like, yeah, I can you make this practice? You made it. And then you came out and you just had an amazing event, and you were back on the map. And then now you're making the transition to Damage, and it's like you never missed a beat. But let's just talk about you coming back real quick, and then we'll talk about the transition. What brought you back?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I got brought back was because Billy and Rainey called me. That was it. They called me. It was Friday evening, and this was at the time the weekend before the event. So Friday evening they called me. It's like 7, 8 o'clock, something like that. 9 o'clock. No, it was 11 o'clock. It was 10, 11 o'clock. It was late, and I was like, "Why is these dudes calling me? Like, are they like, what's going on?" So I answered the phone. I haven't spoken to them in a little bit. I just thought they just wanted to catch up. So, what's up, dudes? What's going on? Yeah. And they're like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, just getting done with work. How you guys doing? You guys have practice this weekend, right? They're like, yeah. So you want to play? They first said, are you coming to Chicago, the event? And I was like, yeah, I was going to come watch. Yeah, sure. And they're like, okay, yeah. So you want to come? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, do you want to play? And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, I'll play. Okay. Yeah, sure. And they're like, okay, great. Can you be at practice tomorrow? Or can you be at practice? And I go, you mean in like 8 hours?
In Texas?
So I literally took, in Texas. So I jump on a flight it was like a 5 a.m. flight, and I make it into practice at like 11 o'clock. And it was a moment I'll never forget, dude. It's been so long since I've seen these guys. They're already a couple hours into practice, and we were playing Infamous, I think, and kind of came in, just literally threw it back on and grabbed a gun and just started playing. And I was like, this center's nice. I'm feeling this. And just it was, a lot of the guys said too, is like, it was incredible too, just the way, obviously just a new guy coming on the team is always just there's a whole new energy with that. But just having me come back and playing up this center that was so strong, and it just completely changed the whole dynamic of the team. And just, LJ's back. Yeah. So then we go to my home event in Chicago, and in my opinion, everything's mental, it's all mental, man. It's like, I went into it wanting it, not needing it, you know? And I think that's a huge part of it is with paintball, with
Such
work,
a
with the
different
girlfriend.
shift.
Yeah,
Such
you
a different
can't,
shift.
yeah, and it's tough. It's a tough balance. Like, like playing games with a girl a little bit, right? You got the law of attraction type of deal. You got to just, yeah. So, yeah, I just went into it. I had so many other things going on in my life where it was great. So it's kind of just like, I have nothing to lose here. I'm just going to go out there. And Ryan was coaching me and he's just like, yeah, LJ, just shoot whatever way and just go ahead, And that's when I feel like I play my best. It's kind of just when I just get the go where I can just, do whatever I want basically. And yeah, so we came out and we won the event, man. And it was probably some of the best paintball I've ever played. And yeah, one of the best moments of my entire life.
Well, it's just so fascinating because we and
band of brothers.
Yeah. And you want it, not need it. What does that do to your psyche? If you want something and you don't need it, well, you can take a little bit more risk. And the risk I felt that you were taking out there and the way, the fluidity in which and also there's expectations, right? Like no one's going to expect you to show up that weekend and be God's gift to the game. You haven't been training. Right. It's not like you've been, putting in 2-a-days, working your ass off, getting your sprints on to keep your speed up, and then going out and grinding drills out. Like, no, that you literally showed up on the last second, like, hey, bro, can you make it? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be there anyway. Okay, cool. And it all works out. And then you show up. And because all that, the decade and plus that you would put into the game up to that point, because paintball, yeah, man, it definitely helps if you have, the perishable skills dialed in, the snapshot and getting your reps in. But at the end of the day, it is a gambler's sport. Risk versus reward is a massive thing. So it just, the stars aligned and you played amazing and it worked out great. Then you guys go into the next event. It was like a storybook year for you. It really was, because having you be that, that constant threat in the center, and then having just how well everyone else played on the team was just, it was X Factor's time, season title. It was amazing. So let's go into the transition though. So now you're going to be going to Tampa Bay Damage. How did that kind of come about? And then what are you thinking about Damage this year? I just watched them without you this last event, even though Joey was kind of saying, he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get LJ. We'll see if it works out. And then, and I'd said, well, that would be a huge move. And then sure enough, he was able to pull it off. But now Tampa Bay Damage, with how well they looked and, picking up Brad, picking up Keith, or getting Keith back, picking up Brad. Brad's going to be healthy again, with Jacob looking slimmer. Jason also on the treadmill trying to look slimmer. Everyone's super hungry. Chad's super hungry. Chad looked outstanding at that, at the Invitational. Across the board, everybody did. I mean, it literally looked like they were doing anything they wanted to at will, just kind of running a clinic on the lower ranked squads. It was outstanding. Now they're going to get a huge threat in the center. They got a couple rookies on the team too to push guys. I mean, it's looking like Damage could be a huge threat this year. So let's talk about that transition and talk about your new squad.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about it, man. I got the opportunity to play with. It's funny too, Jacob Edwards, but he was my most hated, competitor when I was on Heat. I hated that little kid. He would just shoot the shit out of you and just talk so much shit and just. But he was really good. You had to respect that. He's just good dude. He's a good player, but I hate the kid. And then so he ended up randomly coming into our my third year on Heat, basically in the middle of the year, and he came in and immediately him and I connected as friends as well as on the paintball field more than we just really had a strong connection of. Just the conversations, man, just, hey, what do you need? What's stopping you? Right. And that question right there, what do you need? What do you need? Just asking your one, what do you need, man? What do you need? What's stopping you? Right. And that
what do you need? And then what's stopping you? That's the combo right there.
Right when you ask that question, it's going to immediately take the one's job of like, I have to do this myself. And it's going to give him a self of, I have support. Right. So like, but him and I just immediately had that click, and I've always respected how they played, but especially at World Cup. I think I told you, but I'll say it again. I think it was after one of my games, and I'm walking from the pro pit. Can you hear me still? Good.
Yeah.
And I'm walking on the sidelines, and I'm literally with my head down, and I hear like the perfect symphony of the amount of gun shooting, the communication, just the unity, and it's so crisp. You don't even just hear that like that sound where it's just like that team. It sounds like a good team. They're just the way they're talking, the way they're rolling their guns, and everything like that. I literally, I just so much so that I stopped and I watched, and I was like, wow, this is a whole nother team. Like, I mean, they're always, of course, great, but they just looked a whole nother level of good, and just so unified, which is such a big part of it. It's not like Keith Brown is playing super good and he's just running down the snake shooting everybody, or they have a Dorito guy or center guy that's doing that, because it's almost like you don't want that. You want all 5 guys to be playing together slowly. If they can play the pocket even, and just play that so well and so tight, even if the other teams are making the spots and are putting the pressure on them, and they just stay composed and they're just having those conversations, and then they eventually, they just would dink them out one at a time, and so there was that, as well as when we were actually playing them, on Sunday, which was just a fist fight. So you guys should definitely go back and watch that match. It was incredible. So much heart, man, so much heart on both ends, but especially Damage, dude, playing for Tim. And that's a huge part of the reason why the shift to Damage as well is, it's pretty cool to get the opportunity to play, in Timmy's spot, if you will. But yeah, they were playing their hearts out, man, and that was really cool to see that. And you don't see that too often, especially to the extent that they were, really giving it their all. You couldn't help but just respect that so much. Yeah. And anyways, so I was doing a good job of shooting their shooters. I think Joey mentioned it in his interview with you, that I was shooting their back center can, right? I was shooting a couple, so shooting that guy, and then I was also just had a good shot on Keith, just because of my height, and I did drills to really dial that in. It was like more of just like a wrist flick shot, because those first 3 balls have to go towards the inside of the can, and then you have to, bring it up and down for the guy sliding into that Aztec or the snake. So I was doing a good job of shooting their snake side, and that was the first 2 points. And then the way that they adjusted so quickly, I noticed it actually, because I'm standing on the box shooting, right? And then all of a sudden I see, because when you shoot those shots, you don't really look where you're shooting. I feel like, at least I don't. I just kind of, it's like a gaze, but you're really just using your peripherals to see where are the threats, right?
Yeah.
But you're only shooting 10, 15 balls and then you're getting out. But I see right off the gate, doof, I come out, and then I see Jason's wide body just standing straight at me. And if you see Jason or Jacob Edwards shooting at you, you need to get down immediately, because there's guaranteed a wall of paint coming straight at your face. Like, their shot is insane. So what that did was throw off my shot for the snake side. And so what did they do is they sent Keith to this, the snake side at that point, and then they just kept doing that versus me, and I had to scurry into my spots, which is, of course, I wasn't able to focus on that shot as much, which was a difficult shot already to begin with. But just that immediate adjustment is just that's huge, because we went up the first 2 points, but then they were able to adjust very quickly, and I think that's very huge, because that shows so much, right? That shows that there's so much solid communication off the field, to where like Keith or whoever, Brian Smith or whoever was in that can, that communication is getting across to everybody, and it's getting across to the coach. And with that short amount of time that you have off the field, that crucial time, which I always say, don't dwell on the last point, focus, like what's next, So that crucial time is they're getting that information to them, and then they're drawing up a play, getting on the same page to shut that down that quickly. So that's huge. That shows really that so many different things about that organization. And I think, all the players on that team, and Joey is just a very, very good coach. So I'm really excited to, just like from Heat, I took as much information as I possibly could from their organization. Obviously they've continued to grow since then, but I feel like I've gotten a lot from that. And then Aftershock, I learned how to, I don't even know, just be chaotic and run off the break with 6 dudes sometimes. Remember that one time we ran off with 6 guys?
Oh yeah, I remember.
A few times.
I remember.
Yes, but and then X Factor, just getting all of the knowledge from all those players, Archie, Rainey, Meter, Billy, right? It's just like, again, just being a sponge and listening to them. So I feel like I got a lot of their information now, and then I get to go to Damage, and guess what? Damage, I'm giving you all the other X Factor stuff. No, but
Well, Damage is just looking at this, man. I'm telling you, like, there's a lot of teams that are hungry. I think this year is going to be super fun to watch. I can't wait when we actually get to the big events with the pros. But Damage is scary this year because they're really hungry. When you look at how well and how experienced those guys can produce. Now picking up you, I even like the rookies they got on the team.
I think also they're in a really good place in life too, to where everything's kind of situated, right? To where there's Jacob's just doing well in his career. Everything's kind of just balanced off. Again, it's all mentality and your mental state really, and being able to, like you were talking about, that bubble and focusing when you're at the field, like. That's super important, to where everyone's in a good place, and they're hungry, but they're also it seems like, from what I've heard from speaking with Jason, Jacob, Keith, that everyone's just, it's more hungry than ever and playing better than ever, but also just in a good place in life. And that's kind of where I feel like I am now too. So I feel like it's just a perfect alignment right now. And yes, it's going to be a good year, but we got to just come out and win every single point with 5 bodies up. That's the goal. First point with 5 bodies up, and then with 5 bodies up.
Things looked, again, just perfect for them at the Invitational, and man to man across the board with all the weapons that they got. If everyone does stay healthy, with the fact that Joey does crack the whip super hard and keeps everybody honest and is very ruthless with his criticism, which with guys at that level, I think that's pretty super important, and everyone's man enough to take it at this point. So. Yeah, Damage is going to look really, really tough all year long against a field that also looks really tough. I mean, when you look at all the other top teams, it's going to be a really fun year to watch. You could make a strong argument that that's what we do on the show, all the way down to about 12. There's a decent chance, again, with the Ironman winning the first event last year, being ranked 10th overall. That's a big statement to the rest of the league of what's possible. It's just there's a lot of creative opportunities out there in pro paintball, and I can't wait to see what's going to go down this year. So, did I lose you? Can you hear me? Gotcha. Is it working? Well, it's about that time to sign off. Regardless, LJ, can you hear me? This actually was perfect because this is literally as we were about to sign off is when we lost his headphones. I'm about to get a text from LJ. What happened? We're still on. Anyway, but hey, it looks like we lost LJ, but that was about it anyway. So we got all the conversation that we needed in. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. We're going to be having Billy Bernacci is going to be coming on the show, I think, later on this week. But yeah, looking forward to seeing the start of the year. So see you guys on the next show. Peace.